Hello and welcome to Reloscope, the Relationship Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. I'm your host, Aditi Kutty, and this is not your regular podcast programming. In case you can't tell, this is not where I normally film. I'm not in my studio, I'm at home in my bedroom. Right now, over the Christmas period, we wanted to put together a vlog series where we document our adoption of a practice that we learned from our episodes and try it out for realsies for a month to see if they work or not. Now, regular listeners, audience members, viewers of our show will know that I'm not in a relationship, so it's kind of difficult for me to put things into practice. Nonetheless, I don't think that should stop me. So I decided to focus on a very small section of episode 7 where I talked to Jan Bayliss and she mentioned very, very briefly love languages, which is a tool in which you can figure out how you express affection and love to your loved ones. And I thought that's really cool, and I really wanted to identify what my love languages were and also look into what my hosts from the other podcasts are thinking. So I'd like to begin by presenting my love languages. I've got them here, so I'm going to read them out for you and tell you whether they make sense to me or not. Okay, so I actually did this test quite a few years ago, but I thought I would do it again. The test, both then and now, does give you the option to choose if you're single or if you're doing this, if you're presently in a relationship or coupled up. And it also gives you the option to choose whether you're doing it for your romantic relationships or familial ones or platonic relationships, co-workers, etc. I decided to focus in on romantic relationships because it's more relevant to this podcast. But both times I did the test, I got pretty much the same answers. I've got 2 main love languages. There are 5 in total. And my 2 love languages are acts and service and words of affirmation, both of which make a lot of sense to me because I guess I was just telling a friend the other day, like my ultimate kind of form of spending time with my friends or a loved one is to cook for them. And when I cook for them, I really enjoy both the act of cooking, but also hearing that I did a good job afterwards. So that makes a lot of sense for me. I've got 2 others. The 2 others next are physical touch and quality time. They're both kind of in a pretty high percentile as well. But at the very bottom, I have receiving gifts, and I'm a bit confused by that because even though I don't need gifts, I do really like them because I'm quite materialistic. So I'm just wondering, maybe it's like a prioritization thing. Regardless, I feel like I apply this to all of my day-to-day interactions with people anyway. I think this just, I don't think I need to change personally, but I did chat. It does provide some clarity as to how I operate or why I operate the way I do. And like Jan said in the episode, couple rituals which we discussed are kind of not really things you develop, they're kind of things that happen naturally. So it kind of makes sense that the love language is just kind of a tool for explaining the rituals that you already have with your loved ones. Speaking of loved ones, I also chatted with my colleague, Lu Mo, who is the host of 2 of our podcasts here at LMSL, and you can check it out now.
Lu Ngo, host of Sarah Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast, and Doing Well, the Wellbeing Science Insights podcast, 2 of them. Thank you for joining me on the show. Also, my dear friend.
Aw, thank you. I mean, don't be so formal. Come on. But yeah. So glad I'm here for this activity. I mean, practice. Yeah,
I hope you'll be
keen.
taking on to practice it later in life. I hope it'll be useful to you. I'm going to try it
Oh yeah.
anyway.
Oh yeah. For sure. For sure. Let's do it.
Okay, so love languages. What did you know about love languages before kind of going into it and getting your results?
Mm, what do I know about love languages? I heard about it from a lot of people. Like when I talk to friends who are really into self development and understanding about relationships, they would sometimes casually drop the love languages. If you ask me when I officially knew about the five love languages, and the quiz and knowing about your own style, I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the exact time. What I do remember is I think about maybe a couple of months ago. Let me just look at this very quickly. A couple of months ago, actually January this year, not a couple of months ago. Wow, it's December. So crazy. Anyway, so in January, I'm not sure why. I think it was probably because I at that time was kind of like, okay, let's see if I'm ready for a relationship again, and let's see if there's anything that would help with that this time around. And I took the quiz. Now I'm still single, so that speaks enough. But the quiz really helped to put things into perspective. So maybe I'm saying a bit more than the question, but yeah, hopefully that helps in terms of putting it into context.
No, for sure, for sure. I think that we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about the context and stuff. But first, I want to know your results.
Okay, my results. It's fun. Let's see. So my primary love language is quality time.
Mm-hmm.
And next up is acts of service. And we have next we have actually two, not one, words of affirmation and physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
And the least one that I like is receiving gifts, which is weird. I thought I was materialistic. I'm not.
Yeah, I always thought I was a gift person. I'm the same as you. Gift giving is my last one as well. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, I thought I liked receiving things. But then again, like, I'm not the kind of person that thinks to give gifts. I think I tend to show my appreciation in different ways
yeah,
than gift giving. So it kind of makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Are you
I
surprised?
don't remember. Yeah, like I was surprised because I think for me, maybe it's like it's like an adulting, growing kind of thing. But basically, in the past, I really loved to give gifts, right?
Mm.
And I loved receiving gifts as well. But part of my adulting journey is like moving to another country, living by myself, barely having any family or friends here. I mean, I do have a lot of good friends, but like it's a different kind of friendship compared to the ones that you grew up with.
Mhm.
And gift giving is not really a thing. And instead, we spend quality time and we have like deep conversations and do activities or learn together, work out together, things like that. And I feel like because of that natural progression of who I was becoming or like the environment I was in, gift giving became last. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm no longer giving gifts. It just means that I value quality time much more because, yeah, if I look at my circle, everyone is still like kind of like pampering me on my birthday, and like I'm also pampering them on their birthday, and even on non-special occasion I like to give people gifts. That's like I thought that was my biggest love language. Again, it's still my love language, but it's not as big as I thought it was. So
Mm.
it was surprising to me to find out that quality time was like the most important one, and then gift giving is the least important one, but still it is still important. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's like sometimes the trouble with love languages, from what I understand, is that people tend to assume that like they've only got one way of showing affection and love to other people, or one way of wanting it from other people. Like, yes, gift giving is like lowest on my list, but if you give me something, I'm still going to be very happy about it. I'm not going to be like,
exactly.
no, you chose my least favorite love language. Like, this is not, you don't
Yeah,
understand me at all.
yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah. Quality time
Mm.
does make a lot of sense for you, though.
Yeah, it does. Now that I think about it, it does. Like, I just really want to have FaceTime with people like that I love, and whether it be friends, family, or well, okay, I haven't been in a relationship in a very long time, but the last one that I had, I think so for sure. Like, it was my love language to spend quality time with my significant other. So yeah, I
Yeah.
it makes sense. And I just think about like my friends now, my friend group and friends, and it definitely makes sense because I always want to hang out, but not the kind of hanging out when we were in our teens or early 20s. It's more like, oh, like let's go home and cook something together or watch a movie together at home and have a conversation or like have multiple conversations. Um, so yeah, quality time, really important.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like in person quality time is kind of the key. Because, yeah,
Yeah.
being online sometimes and having just a bit of a gossip session can be really fun. But but I just think it's not the same as like when you're just hanging out in person and you're having the same snacks and the nuances of when you're discussing something in person as opposed to online, which can feel kind of like, I'm going to wait for you to finish talking so that I can get heard because we're not going to hear each other over whatever's being said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You said that you've kind of noticed how you've used or at least experienced your love language in the past with previous relationships. What
Yeah.
about kind of the others on your list? Have you kind of noticed the same sort of prioritization of the way you express and or receive or like to receive love?
Mm, well, now that I think about it, right? Now, quality, I'm just looking at my results. Quality time is definitely the biggest one on the list. And acts of service is the second one. Now, I think that kind of makes sense now that I think about it. But again, the last time I was in a relationship was a very long time ago. So this might have changed. I feel like it's similar to the 16 personalities. Like as you grow as a person, it will change. It's not going to stay the same.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that makes sense. But maybe in the past, I needed a bit more words of affirmation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I was a less secure person compared to who I am now. So I needed the words, I needed the text and whatnot. But I am surprised because I thought physical touch was going to be like higher, but then it's kind of like just before the last one, and acts of service is the second best one. I don't know. Like I feel like maybe it is because of how I have changed in my perspective when it comes to relationship. Because like in the past, right, as I just told you, in the past, I just like to have the words, the text, the call, whatever it is. But now, not really. Now I prefer to have the acts of service because there's a saying that it doesn't matter what they say, it matters what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the past, I was a child. I didn't really notice any of this and I didn't really care. All I wanted was to just like to have that person close to me or like constantly reassuring me. But now, as an adult, having grown a little bit older, not sure if I'm wiser, but still a little bit older, I think it's switched in terms of position. Like I don't really care much about the words. Not that they don't matter,
Mm-hmm.
but what I would look at is in terms of priority, it would be the acts of service in terms of the actions.
Mm-hmm.
Like not that I need to be served or like to be pampered at all times, but I would rather look at the actions rather than compared to the words. Yeah, and there's another saying we all know: actions speak louder than words. So it's also based on personal experience of what I've gone through, and I'm just like, well, no more sweet talking. Everyone can do that, but I need some action.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, agreed. I also feel like it's a little cultural we're raised to kind of commit acts of service over give words of affirmation. And there's negatives and positives around that. There's a lot of good things and bad things about it. But I feel like it just kind of fits in with just upbringing, especially like in various Asian cultures, just the way we've been brought up, I think.
Yeah. I think it's like, for me, it's also part of like, it's funny. It's part of this identity crisis now that you mention, our backgrounds. Like when I was younger, obviously I was heavily influenced by the Vietnamese culture where I was from. I mean, where I'm from. I don't know why I said it was. Cannot speak.
You're a Melbourne girl now.
Oh, I feel so bad about that. Anyways, yeah. So because I was born and raised in Vietnam, I was heavily influenced by that culture, and also the way that people around me think. I think it's also kind of like the friends that I was surrounded by, and social media as well. I have to say, like, it's to me a really big issue, because I noticed that when I moved to Australia and started to kind of embrace the different parts of who I am, I noticed that like the social media that I was consuming in Vietnam was just so bad for my mental health and the way that I perceive relationships. And also like the people that were surrounding me, they were kind of giving me the idea of like the relationship should be so and so, especially because I'm a woman, identify myself as a woman. And I think it's kind of like, it's weird for me to be forced into thinking about relationships in the way that the generation of my parents and my aunties and uncles think, and approaching it as well. Like the way that they approach it is very different. So like the love language might be shaped because of that. Like if I want a relationship purely for materials, right, I will prioritize gifts. Well, obviously, if I prioritize a relationship just because I need, stability in my life, or I need someone there, maybe it doesn't matter who they are. It's just, like matters the physical touch and the words of affirmation and whatnot. So I think, yeah, in a way, culture and the way that you perceive relationship does influence how you are going to see and have different kinds of love languages. So yeah, that's kind of like what I've noticed, at least.
I feel like this deserves an entire podcast episode. Just the two of us talking about how culture impacts how we perceive relationships.
Yeah, I know. We can talk about this all day, but
oh, tell me about it. I could go on.
Yeah, we can go on. Right. I could go on.
Final question from me is my two top love languages. I have two tied for top place. Are acts of service and words of affirmation. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised.
No.
I think that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Me neither. When I got my results, I was like, that makes perfect sense to me, actually, because I was telling you like my love language is cooking, and when you think about it, like acts of service, and then I have to ask them if they liked it after, and then they compliment me for what I made. It's perfect. It's the perfect mix of the two. So
I love that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Lou, thank you so much for joining me and talking about your love languages and bearing your soul open for about 10 minutes.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. Like, I am an open book. I'm giving away everything. Here you go. Acts of service. That's there you go. Quality time as well.
Did you want to finish off by plugging your two podcasts?
Oh, sure. Thanks. Would love that. Well, in case you don't know, listeners and audience, I know Aditi because we work together. Yay. But we also hang out outside of work. So yay. And while Aditi is hosting two podcasts, I'm also hosting two podcasts. And the two that I'm hosting are about happiness and well-being. So if you're interested, definitely check them out. every single link should be under the LMSL's website and, link tree. So if you don't have access to that, I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes somewhere. The show that I love the most is the well-being show, because that's what I'm prioritizing at the moment. And it's called Doing Well, the Wellbeing Science Insights podcast. I'm also vlogging for that show where I'm checking in with my feelings. So if you want to check that out, links should be in the description somewhere. And the other show, trickier to manage because happiness is elusive to me now. The more I host the show, the more I don't understand it. But the show is called Sarah Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast. And for that show, I'm vlogging and doing a practice of setting daily intentions. So if you want to watch that, definitely check it out. So yeah, thank you. And good to be here.
Yeah, I've been listening to both. I love them so much. So I highly encourage our audience to check it out as well. And I really, really hope happiness finds you soon.
Wow, that touches me so much. Words of affirmation. Thank you. Love that. Love that.
I did it. Oh my God, I practiced it.
You did it. I love that.
All right, I'm going to end this before it turns into another 10 minutes.